Welcome to Cars on Call. I am automotive journalist Steve Schutz. I'm here with trauma surgeon Stephan Moran. We're missing Adams Hudson. He's away, but uh, good morning for me, I guess. Maybe. Hello.
Yeah, yeah. For me, it's 1 o'clock in the afternoon. So good afternoon.
Yeah. All right. Good to see you. We're going to talk about. You got some stuff you want to talk about first, and then we're going to talk about BMW X5, and I'm going to make the argument. We'll see if I'm right that it's the most successful vehicle of the last 25 years. I mean, financially successful, but in other ways too. We're going to talk trauma surgeon safety, of course. We're the only podcast that has a trauma surgeon who has not only operated on many car crash victims, sadly, but also has done research on car collisions. So that's our Dr. Stephan Moran. Anyway, we're also going to talk some Nissan, and we're going to talk an interesting rumor about GMC. So we'll get to that. That's the teaser. And Stefan, man, you got something you want to say? Is it a rant or is it just some news?
No, no, I got two things I want to say. So, if you see my new shirt, I've got the Ford
Love it.
GT50 that won Le Mans in '68. And what happened was they had a Cobra t-shirt and it's Carpe VM, VIAM is the name of the website. And these t-shirts, kind of like Blip Shift. I never ordered from them, but Adams sent me a picture of this cool Cobra shirt that was from the cover of Mechanics Illustrated. So I ordered the shirt. Weeks go by, nothing. I call the phone number on the company, and there's not even a voicemail box. And then I email them, nothing. So then I call the credit card company and say, "Hey, I want my money back." They're not responding. Credit card company gives my money back. And then I get an email from Carpe Diem that they had difficulty with customer service. They hired somebody new. I explained to him my situation, and he said, "Well, just pick out a t-shirt and we'll send you one." So I picked out a t-shirt and they sent it to me for free. So their customer service is back up and running. And they said they had a glitch that the shirt was out of stock that I'd ordered and it just didn't show up. But they had a serious lapse in customer service, but they're back up and running. So I'll buy another t-shirt if they have another cool shirt like this one. So
Yeah, it's cool. Before the movie Ford versus Ferrari, everybody forgot just how dominant those Ford GT40 race cars were for 4 years. Absolutely incredible.
yeah, and that's just one of the coolest, most iconic cars. So
Yeah.
I got one more. I got a news item. I got a story to lead
Yeah.
us into a news item.
Cool.
So I've told this story a long time ago, so I know we got some new listeners that probably never heard it. But I was at UAB, which is our big medical school in Birmingham, and I was a trauma surgeon on call, which meant we ever also covered burns. And I had this young intern with me, and he was from New York City, kind of a tall, goofy guy. And it's the middle of an Alabama winter, which isn't that cold, but this we get a trauma alert for a burn patient coming in. So here comes it wheeling into the ERs, this older guy. He's probably about 78. He's sitting up on the gurney, so he's not badly injured. He's got on cut off blue jeans. He's not wearing a t-shirt, and he has no eyebrows, no eyelashes. The stubble on his head was gone, and his face was bright red, and his upper chest was bright red. And then he had a white line from underneath his nose across his cheeks, around his ears, that came down to his neck. And so, I mean, I clearly knew what was going on here. But my intern walks over and goes, "Oh, hey, Mr. Smith, what brings you in today?" And I mean, I'm like, dude, and he says it with a New York accent. I'm like thinking to myself,
Yo.
like, yo, yo. And he goes, and the patient goes, "Well, hell, doc, can't you tell? I caught fire. I caught fire." And I looked at him and said, "Yeah, he caught fire. Can't you tell?" And which leads me one of my favorite trauma stories.
Well, for
But
people who
so,
don't know what that means, of course, it implies that this was an act of God.
that,
But go ahead and tell our listeners exactly
so,
what happened.
so the white line, yeah, the white line, he was, of course, he had oxygen on because he had emphysema so bad. And he was smoking a cigarette and it blew up, the oxygen did. And the white line was the oxygen tubing that left the imprint on him. So
Yeah, spontaneous
spontaneous
combustion.
combustion. So, so speaking of spontaneous combustion, I don't know if you saw in the Wall Street Journal. So here you are, I've got a picture here. So you're at the gas station and you pull up to get gas and you walk up to the guy standing next to this car. What brings you to the gas station? What happened to your car today? Well, this is a picture of a Corvette that caught fire. And apparently the new Corvettes, the ZR1 and the other one, they had to put some extra fan in the back. It's a mid-engine car to cool it. And apparently, when you come to stop, the engine's a little bit hot and you maybe overfill or some fumes get in there, they blow up and burn. And so this is a picture of a Corvette
Wow.
totally burned up. Yeah, I made the Wall Street Journal. So, hey, dude, what happened to your car? Caught fire.
It got far.
Caught fire.
Well,
Fare. Far.
yeah, I guess public service announcement. If you have a C8 Corvette, especially the ZR1, don't fill it all away. Once it clicks, that's it.
Yes, yes. I usually turn the gas on at Love's and walk inside, go to the restroom, get something, and come back out. I know I shouldn't do that. That's bad form.
Yeah, but it's going to click and it'll turn off. So it's,
Yeah.
it's overfilling it is what it sounds like. Damn. Um, wow. And of course, it goes it goes without saying, don't fill up your ZR1 too much while you're smoking.
Yes, exactly. Public service announcement. Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks for that, Stefan. I want to talk about the BMW X5, and I'm going to make the argument that this is the most successful car of the last 25 years. And I will add the caveat that it doesn't matter what years you're talking about. The most successful car is probably the F-150.
Yeah.
The best quote I ever heard about the F-150 is you can sell cars in low volume for high profit, or you can sell cars high volume and low profit. But you can't do both high profit and high volume unless you sell F-150s,
150s, right.
which is an amazing thing. So that's the caveat. But I want to make this point. I, of course, have test driven numerous X5s over the years. I think they're fine. The X5 came out as really the first, it was the first BMW SUV, but there was, Lexus had their RX as a luxury SUV. There was a Lincoln Navigator. The Escalade had just come out. And of course, Mercedes had their what's now called the GLE. It was then called the ML. So there were SUVs already, but they call this is going to be different. There was no, of course, Porsche Cayenne at this point, although that came out shortly afterwards. But the point that they made was, all right, SUVs are going to be a thing, and everyone has to be in the game, including us, which is BMW. And they called it the Sports Activity Vehicle, SAV. And they said this is going to be sportier. This is going to be a BMW. And it's true. Stefan, if you want to show the first one, and then you can show the most recent one, it really was pretty small. And it almost looks like a raised station wagon. Of course, it wasn't, but it was a unibody SUV. And it was very BMW. Actually, the first, the first one I drove, which was a 2000, 2001 or 2002, was a manual transmission. So
Wow. I had no idea they even made them in a manual.
they did. So that was pretty cool. Now, of course, there's no way. If you show the most recent one, this is the new one. I went for a ride with a real estate agent looking at some houses not too long ago, and she had an X5. One of my mentors in medical school just drives X5s, and one of my best friends, a roommate from medical school, he just drives X5s. He leases them every 3 years. So I realized there's a whole cohort of people that buy these things. In 2000, I'll give you some numbers, and I think these numbers are really, really significant. In 2000, BMW sold about 27,000 X5s in the United States. Obviously, that's a lot of SUVs. In 2024, however, they sold almost 75,000 of these. So they sold tons of them. And when you think about it, they start at around 60,000, they top out at around 80,000. So let's say that the average transaction price is around $70,000, which I think is probably right. If you say, okay, that's the average transaction price, and if you assume, which is, I think this is conservative, but if you assume that BMW makes a net profit of $15,000 per unit, and again, I think that's conservative. That's probably what Ford makes on their F-150s, about $15,000 profit. If you take those numbers and do the math, the net, what is the money? What is it called? Revenue. BMW makes $5 billion dollars just in US sales of X5s. And if you assume it's $15,000 profit per vehicle, which again, I think is reasonable, it may be more than that, then you're talking about $1 billion dollars in profit per year with about a 20% profit margin. So this is an extremely successful vehicle. And, think about it. I mean, if you're a company and it doesn't matter what you make, let's say you're in finance or something and your revenues are $5 billion dollars a year and you have a 20% profit margin, you are very, very happy. This is one car.
I think about it. If you had to get in, if you're looking in that luxury segment for SUV, you got my brain thinking about it. It's not a segment that I'm interested in, but a friend of mine, they wanted this segment, and she ended up buying the X5 over the Cayenne. And the reason she bought the X5 over the Cayenne, he wanted the Porsche, but she wanted the X5 because of the autonomous driving features that it has, the ADAS, that the
Yeah.
Cayenne did not have at the time. And then I got to thinking, I got another buddy who drives a bunch of Land Rovers, Range Rovers, and I got to thinking, I love that vehicle, but honestly, if I was to pick a luxury, what I would call this is a large SUV. It's not a three rower, but the large mid-size category. I would probably go with the X5 over a Range Rover or the Sport because of the reliability with that. And without a doubt, the amount of automated driving active systems that the vehicle have after having my Ford with Blue Cruise and I drive hands-free all the time. I'm telling you, I would not buy a new luxury vehicle if it does not have hands-free. Wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
I wouldn't do it. And I've mentioned this before, but the reason I really believe that now is if your vehicle does not have hands-free active driving, some form of autonomous driving, you do have lane departure warning and blind spot warning, but those are negative reinforcement the way they interact with you that most people just turn them off. Okay. But if your vehicle has automated driving, those systems don't act, they don't interact with you the same way. And it's not like having Karen in the car every time you drift over. And it makes you a better driver and a safer driver having those features active in a vehicle that has autonomous driving. Without autonomous driving, those features will drive you crazy and everybody turns them off. So she picked the X5. I understand that. I get it. And I think in this segment, I would go for the BMW X5 in this segment. They've
Yeah.
nailed it.
I think there's two things that kind of dovetail with what you just said. One is that they're obviously reliable vehicles, and the Land Rover, I certainly question their reliability.
Right.
But once you have a track record like this over 25 years, another thing happens, and this is true for the F-150 too. You get this reputation which supports and undergirds your resale value. And what
Correct.
resale value comes from is number one, quality, but most importantly, and this is it, any price of anything is always supply and demand. And I've said for forever, and this is true, you've heard me say this probably 20 times. If you buy an F-150, when it's time to get rid of it, there is an army of guys, and it's almost always guys, ready to buy your F-150. I don't care if it's from the 1970s, the 1990s, or the 2020s. People are ready to buy a used F-150. You can sell it easily, no problem. There's always buyers. And I think the same is true for the X5.
Hey, do you remember the name of the buyer of my F-150? My
You
15.
showed us a picture, and I
It was,
forgot who it was.
it was Marlou. She bought it for her son, Will, but it was, yeah, but a female bought my F-150. Marlou did. She bought it for her son, Will.
But for her son, not for
Yeah,
herself.
and sad ending that. God rest in peace, Will. But sad ending to that story.
What?
But
Who?
Marley still has it. Yeah, Will, the person who bought my truck.
He died?
Yeah, said very
Oh,
sadly, very
all
sadly.
right. I'm sorry about that.
Yeah, very. Yeah. So to the family, we're thinking about you guys. But just But yeah, I sold my F-150 to Marlou, but you're right. All day long you can sell that F-150. And I think the X5 represents that same thing that, yeah, they're established in the market. They've got a great reputation. It adds a little bit of, whatever their sport activity driving. And to me, it is the segment leader. And I'd be hard pressed not to get that. I would get that over the Cayenne all day long. I just for the active driving features, and I think it's long term would be easier to maintain, lower cost, and I like the looks of it.
Yeah, I think it's aged. Even the first generation one is aged very well. The Cayenne, I can tell you, I own a Porsche, and I would not get a Cayenne just because Porsche prices for service are crazy.
Yeah.
So BMW is much more reasonable. I own a BMW also, so much more reasonable prices, and the depreciation hit is much less. I mean, the X5 doesn't depreciate hardly at all. By the way, a couple of things I'll say really quickly about a Range Rover or Land Rover. I tell people ask about them. I say I think they're great, especially the Range Rover. I absolutely love it. But I would say lease it, and
Yes,
uh,
absolutely.
and then you don't have to take the depreciation hit because if you buy it new, the depreciation hit is huge. There's a YouTuber named Ed Boley. I don't know if you know him, but he's the
Yes.
cannonballer. He said something interesting. What he does for, his wife always drives some kind of luxury SUV, and he said, I wait until I buy something that's just out of warranty, like a month or two out of warranty. And he said, what happens is that's when like a Mercedes SUV or especially a Range Rover, that's when they really depreciate when they're out of warranty. And he goes, so you can get them really cheap because nobody wants them out of warranty. But so you said, if you just assume you're going to have to work on some stuff and pay for it, it actually pencils out if you buy it out of warranty because the depreciation is so high. You can take that money that you would have paid for, let's say a 3-year-old X5, which is going to hold its value better, or a Lexus. You can take that money you would have spent extra, which of course a used Lexus is going to cost more because they're so good, and just assume you're gonna pay maintenance on it. He goes, just pencil out, and it actually ends up being cheaper.
Yeah, I mean, economic anomalies aside, your best vehicle purchase is a 3-year off lease. Is it just, right off 3-year off
Right.
lease vehicle? That's going to be the highest depreciation. Any 3-year old, like and that falls under the warranty thing. And people take that big hit, and there's so many people just want the brand new everything every time. So you get 3 years. My Bullet was a trade-in that I got, 1 year off a trade, and I saved money on it. So
What happens is, if you think about what happens to the vehicle, who's buying, let's say, a brand new X5 or a brand new Range Rover? It's going to be a successful small business owner, professional, one of those the same category, or their spouse, and then it's gonna and of course it's gonna be maintained and taken care of because that's what they do. If you're a successful business owner, you maintain your vehicles. It's just part
yeah,
of your DNA. So you get a car off lease, it's going to be usually not very high miles because again, a lease limits your miles and it will have been well taken care of, usually at the dealership.
yep.
All right, trauma surgeon safety. We have a trauma surgeon here. It happens to be you. So we always have a
So
segment.
I guess I'm on deck.
We have a segment talking about trauma safety. I was talking to a friend recently who I didn't even think listened to this show, and he said he's learned so much about how to stay safe in a car and little safety tips. He goes, "It's amazing what I've learned from Dr. Moran." So kind of cool.
All right, so we are going to today, we're going to talk kind of public service announcement, just kind of a reminder.
I've seen that
So,
picture before.
yeah, so for you listeners that don't have pictures, so Jeff Bank, who's been on the show before, one of our co-hosts, he unfortunately in the last, so he got hit in his BMW X7. They have a rental vehicle. It's a Nissan Rogue, and his wife was driving to school on a 4-lane, and she got slammed in the rear in the rental by this. What the hell is that? That's a Ford.
It
What's
looks
that?
like it, yeah, Ford Transit Connect.
Ford Transit Connect. And so, I told Jeff, dial 1-800 Zuckerman. If you listen to Spike Car Radio, Zuckerman's the plaintiff lawyer on there. But this is a company truck that struck them. And what's surprising was most of these actually do have emergency active braking. So he may have exceeded that capability. I'm not sure why there was an emergency active braking, but she got hit in the rear and she's doing all right. The kids were not in the back, but she does have some whiplash. I'm going to talk about whiplash, and I'm going to talk what's important about. So the first thing that I think is important, let me fix this, is when I get in a car, no matter whose car it is, and I immediately adjust my position in the vehicle to the best possible position. So what they'll tell you is you get in the car, the first thing you want to do is put your legs straight, but just a slight bend, and put your foot behind the brake. That's the optimum position for you to apply the maximum force to the brake pedal. The next thing you want to do is you want to make sure you're nice and upright. And then you put your arms straight out and your wrist should be across the top of the steering wheel. That's the second adjustment that you make. And then after that, the third adjustment I do is I adjust the headrest. So I've got a tendency for bad posture anyway. My neck goes forward. But when I sit in a vehicle, I've took care of so many people that had whiplash, got hit in the rear, that when I get in the vehicle, I make sure that the headrest is about 1 centimeter from the back of my head. So when I'm driving, I can just barely put my head back and I can rest my head and I'm in an upright position going down interstate with maximum visualization. So that is so what you're doing is you are sitting in that seat where it is optimized and crash test to protect you. Okay. You don't want to do the seat way back in the back seat. Saw plenty of those. You see these young kids driving with the seat laid back. Well, what happens there, you look next time you see something like that, take a look at the shoulder belt. Where's that shoulder belt? The shoulder belt is right there coming across their neck. And what happens is that shoulder belt hits your neck. And then because it's not running at your collarbone, you then get injuries like what is called a blunt carotid artery injury. So it basically tears the lining of the main blood vessel to your neck, and then you have a stroke, or even worse, you die, or you injure your trachea, or you break your neck. So seating is very important, and so body positioning. So we're talking about whiplash, and so about 30% of all motor vehicle collisions are rear enders. It's actually the most common single type of collision, but it's only about 75% of fatal crashes. So you think about it, if you get hit from the rear, there is a lot of sheet metal between your seat and the rear bumper. So what happens is all that metal behind you collapses, so that increases the time that you have to decelerate, and most of the time you get pushed forward. So actually some of the momentum is transferred from that vehicle to you. So overall you have a very long collision. It's a long time. It's not like hitting a concrete pole head on where you go 60 to 0 instantaneously. About 1 million people are seen in hospitals a year for whiplash type injuries, and it's estimated overall about 3 million because a lot of people don't go to the ER. About 20 to 40% of people that have whiplash injuries go on to have chronic problems. It's estimated the cost is about $5.2 billion. Now, as you can imagine, who is going to be more likely to have a whiplash, a male or a female? What do you think, Sivo?
Yeah, I never thought about it. I'm going to go 50-50, right? I don't even know. Just tell me
Okay.
because I can't
Well,
even think it
well,
through.
yeah, well, it's actually there's two reasons. Number one is vehicles are designed to fit the hybrid three male. Number one. Okay, so the seat by design is preferentially for a male, not a female. The second thing is our head weighs anywhere from 10 to 15 pounds. So think about that. That is a bowling ball on top of your neck. Okay. That's 1.5 pounds heavier than a gallon of milk. So it's your muscles in your neck that provide the support to your head in a collision. Women have smaller muscle mass than men do. Okay. F1 driver, those guys have huge necks. They can sustain gigantic loads onto their head and not get whiplash, where the rest of us will all have injuries. So seat position is very important, driver fitment. I talked about this before. My wife buys a car. She basically finds a car that she fits in. She's 5 feet tall. It ends up usually being a European or Asian manufacturer because it just fits her. I mean, she can't even drive my F-150. Um, so those are very important. And then seat back designs have improved over the years. Volvo used to have the active head restraint that actually moved forward to your head. So all these things you can think about it, how you are positioned in the vehicle, make sure you're not Don't have your head sideways looking at your phone. You can imagine if you've got your head turned to the side looking at your phone and you're in somebody, now you've added a rotational force to your injury. So now you have a rotational whiplash. So everything's very important this way. You want to get set up in, and when they try to predict these injuries in the headrest, there's so many things that occur in a real world crash that make it, that you're gonna end up with some kind of injury because they're trying to protect a lot of other things. But so I think so kind of, putting it all together, make sure that you're properly fitted to the seat, and especially if it's a rental or a car you're not used to, take time, adjust all the mirrors, learn where the temperature control is. So when you're driving, you can be actively involved with driving. Use your seatbelt properly. That's very important. So I'm glad, that she's okay. But it's a very common wreck. It's a scary thing. I mean, she's two wrecks in what, 6 weeks they've been through.
Neither one
So
their fault.
yeah, exactly.
Just
So
oh my gosh, yeah. Again, fortunately, in both injuries, the first accident, no injuries, but it was Jeff, his wife, and their two daughters, no injuries. But the X7 was spun around, like
right.
180-degree turn, and then this one, not as severe forces, you would think, and yet his wife has some whiplash. Hopefully, she gets better very quickly.
Yep. So
All right, yeah, we're
that's
with
it
you,
for trauma
Jeff.
today. All right.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to switch gears, and Nissan has been in the news because they are really, really in financial trouble.
Ooh, they're bad trouble.
They're close to bankruptcy, and it appeared about 2 or 3 months ago that they were going to be saved by Honda, and Honda was going to come in and basically partner with them. I think what happened was Nissan said, "Yeah, sure, this is good. They're my white knight." And the White Knight said, "Yeah, sure. It's not going to be this is not a merger of equals. We're going to take you over, basically sell the parts, and there's going to be very little of Nissan left over in this quote unquote partnership." So Nissan said, "This is, it's like it's instead instead of a death, it's a suicide." So they just said, "All right, we're not going to do this." And now they're trying to make it, and they've got a new CEO, and he hasn't been in the news much, which I think is a good thing. I'm sure he's working around the clock to try to fix the company, and we don't know what he's doing. We do know that there's a strong rumor. I don't think Nissan has announced this, but there's a strong rumor that the Xterra is coming back. That, of course, ever since the show started, we've been talking about how they need to bring back the Xterra.
Well, you know what? We,
So,
we probably talk about this, too, but I think it's important if your company is flailing with its current product line and not meeting customer demands, at least go back to the old playbook and pull something back out that worked to get kind of like some nostalgic buyers. I mean, case example, the Bronco. I mean, went back to the old playbook, pulled out the Bronco, been a huge seller. And Nissan's got some stuff in the back that if they went back to that playbook, they could bring out and perhaps gain some market share.
yeah, I 100% agree. And this is what I wrote down for what I think they need to do to fix things. The first thing is number one, you don't need to, I mean, yeah, bring back the Xterra. Absolutely. That, of course, should be something that, but, turning a company around is like turning an ocean liner around. It takes a long,
Right.
long time. You can't make a decision today. And, most people don't know this. If you decide today, okay, we've got this car and we have it conceived and this is what it's going to be. For example, we're going to make a new Xterra and we're going to base it on the Pathfinder platform. Great. It takes 3 years.
Yeah.
So that takes a long time. So what can they do now? I think lean into the frontier. And this, small, mid-sized pickups are a huge segment. It's growing. The Maverick, the Tacoma, the Colorado, the Ranger, everybody's making money here.
Yes.
Nissan needs to lead into the frontier. So the picture you're seeing there, Stefan, I went to ChatGPT and I said, take the new Nissan Frontier pickup and add design elements from a Ford F-150 Raptor. So this is just ChatGPT AI making a
Oh, I
Frontier.
thought this was real.
No, it's Raptorized. Isn't that genius? I mean, come on.
Oh, yeah.
That's what you need to do. Take the Frontier, put the Raptor stuff on it, and then boom, you have not only success but profit because people I think the Raptor talking about profit, I there's no way the Raptor makes Ford less than 20 to $25,000 profit each one. And people pay
I
up for this. It looks good and it's functional, Stefan.
mean, everybody around the world talks about the Raptor. You know, they've got the Ranger Raptor is huge in the rest of the world. The F-150 Raptor, and the other thing you got to realize is the Raptor looks so cool. It gets people in the showroom that don't get a Raptor, okay? It still brings cachet to the brand, coolness to the brand, desirability. And it's kind of like, racing on Sundays brings them in on Mondays. I don't know so much about that, but what that Raptor does for Ford and the Ranger and the F-150 is it makes them cool. So people go in and get kind of like a little, the lesser model, but we'll throw some wheels on it to make them Raptor-esque. I'm sure if you looked at the downstream revenues from the Raptor, it's got to be huge.
I totally agree. And it would just, I think it would turbocharge the Frontier in a way and they could do it. It would be easy to do.
I mean,
It's not a
yeah,
new vehicle. By the way, this speaks to spot exactly what you were talking about. You said the Bronco, bring back the Bronco, which Ford did. It was a success. You know what they could call it? Instead of calling it a Raptor, you call it the hard body because Nissan
yeah,
had the hard body, small pickup in the 80s. It was just like this. And calling it the hard body made it cool. Well, I think they still own the name. Call it the Frontier Hard Body.
yeah. There you go. That's a great plan. I like
Anyway,
that.
yeah. The Xterra, if you show a picture of the old Xterra, you just have a new one and it competes
Let me
directly
say,
with the Toyota 4Runner. And then I had another idea, Stefan. You have the new Xterra, which is going to be basically a twin of the 4Runner, right? And then you do what Toyota did. Toyota said, we're going to make this 4Runner, but then we're also going to make a Land Cruiser out of it. So they take the same 4Runner, they put a big boxy body on it. It's maybe 20% larger on the same platform, wheelbase, everything else. And it didn't cost that much money to make the new Land Cruiser, and that's very successful. So I would say do that. Come out with a Land Cruiser version of the Xterra. And then what they need to do is focus on the heart of the market because they're a volume brand. The CRV basically in the RAV4, the Bronco Sport, that's the heart of the market. Everyone's buying those. So come out with there's the old Xterra.
yeah,
Again, still looks good. So
yeah,
just right below there is scroll up a little bit up. There you go. That is the 2024 Rogue. So focus on the Rogue and say, okay, this is where we're going to make our money and make it a little bit nicer. But ultimately, you want to compete. I mean, it's Nissan. You want to compete on price. You want it to be at least one, two, $3,000 cheaper than the CRV or RAV4, but make it, as nice as you can. It can't be quite the same, but I think you'll get volume and a lot of people, a lower monthly payment. And this is going to be where you make all your money because this is the volume. This is going to be 80% of their sales. And then I make one other change if you scroll down. This is also AI, by the way. I said, take the Nissan Sentra and make a Subaru Crosstrek out of it. Add Subaru Crosstrek design on
oh,
this.
yeah.
They
Oh my
absolutely need to,
gosh.
right, Stefan?
Yes, that looks great.
Thank you. Take the Nissan Sentra, which right now is it's like a just it's a car for the secretary's secretary. I mean,
Yeah.
it's like, oh, this is a car for the Sentra is just pathetic. It's a car for nobody. I'm sure I bet you they lose money in every single Sentra sale, and they only sell because the MPG numbers to help their fleet MPG. Come on, Subaru had their Impreza, and then they made the Crosstrek, and oh my gosh, it's so much more profitable, Stefan.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, here I'm gonna pull up a picture of a Sentra.
AI is pretty cool.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm just amazed at that picture that I thought that was like a real car. So yeah, there's a Sentra.
Yeah.
And yeah. And then I got to go back to show what you designed. It's like, yeah, I mean, just fantastic.
It's the same damn car, but you put the plastic on it, you lift it by about 3 inches, you put bigger wheels and tires on it, and you put a roof rack on it, and then black cladding in different places. It's not a lot of money to make the change, but you
Right.
could charge $5,000 more.
Yep. Wow.
All right. So I'm
All
still
right. Hopefully
fired up. So
Nissan's lit. Hopefully
I'm gonna,
Nissan's listening.
yeah, I hope so. So I made a few notes about Infinity too, and I know I got to wrap this up, but here's what I think Infinity ought to do. I think Infinity has too many models. So I think Infinity needs to cut back on their models. I think they need to lean into the QX80, which is their version of the Nissan Patrol SUV. They're here. This is a profitable vehicle. They need to lean into this, try to sell more of these. This is a big body on frame SUV,
It is
and
amazing how many of those are out there.
yeah, I think they could really beef this up just by, for, well, you'd make essentially a Raptor version of this. So you make, with bigger wheels and tires, I'm sorry, smaller wheels, but bigger tires, off-road kind of version. And I think another thing is, I would have, as far as my models, I would just have three. Okay, I'd have the Nissan Rogue, make that into an Infiniti, and there it is. Essentially, the QX50 is what that is, and I'd have that, and then I'd have the QX80 and really lean to the big SUV, and then I'd have an Infiniti version of the Xterra, just like I think Lincoln should make a version of the Bronco. It would be a little bit like the G-Wagon. I think that would really, really do well. So I would simplify the line because there's too many QXs no one's ever heard of. I think the only people buying them are rental fleets. Just three models. And then I would also focus on something you could do right away, really work on service. Pick up and drop off for anyone who's having service done in their vehicle and make the buying experience better. I think this is an area where Lexus has really fallen off. I've been buying Lexus LXs for years. I got my first one in 2004, and that was a pretty nice experience. The next experience when I bought my 2010 LX 570, a wonderful experience. The bind was no pressure. It was really comfortable. And the last one, there was no pressure, but it was I couldn't tell any difference between driving my car, or buying my car, which is over $100,000, and buying a Toyota, a Corolla. There was
Yes.
nothing premium about it. It was like, yeah, here you go. No, I actually said, hey, can you just do it in my office? It'll save me some time. They're like, no, did nothing. So I think Infinity has an opening here. I think it's probably the same for Mercedes, BMW, and I think that that's what they should do. So that's my prescription for Nissan and Infinity. And Stefan, I guess no one thinks about an Infinity, but what are your thoughts about Infinity? To the extent that maybe you have any.
I don't really have any. I mean, I see them on the road and it's like, I just have the problem with Infinity back to the initial launch of Infinity when they launched versus Lexus.
Oh
And it was this
man.
very surreal Zen. Didn't you show pictures of cars and their cars were just really seriously just gussied up Nissans at the time that they not a whole lot of extra effort. And yeah, Infinity to me is right up there like Acura. Like, okay, yeah, just a fancy version of something else. Where I think Genesis has hit it out of the park versus Hyundai. I think Genesis has done fantastic, but I feel like Acura is right up there. Infinity and Acura are just the high level brands that they don't need separate dealers for those. I don't know. It just it's I they just I guess I need to take a look more closely at them, but. They just
I
have
think when
I
you're
don't know what they're special. I don't know what makes them special besides some added luxury.
Yeah, you, that's exactly right. In my opinion, I completely agree. You buy a Mercedes, you buy a BMW, you buy a Lexus, you buy it for a reason. There's no reason to buy an Acura or Infinity. None.
Right, right,
What's the point?
right. That's how I look at it.
Yeah. All right. So, Stefan, there's a rumor around, and we talked about this, and I want you to go into it because I think this is number one, a cool rumor. I think it's a cool rumor because I really want it to be true.
Yeah. So let me get my picture ready to go here. So many of you may not know, So back in the day, the small pickups were huge back in the day, the early 90s. And GMC came out with the Cyclone. That's S Cyclone with the S. And it was based on their compact pickup, the Sonoma. And in this thing, they dropped a turbo V6, 280 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 4.3. And it was just kind of
I think
the
it was the
whole,
same. Isn't that the same V6 turbo from your favorite Buick, the Grand National?
yeah. And it
I
was just
love that.
outrageous. It was outrageous. I mean, I mean, you look at it, this is a pickup truck, right? So it's kind of that Australian sport ute idea. Australians have been doing this forever, but there's a more car-like than this. But, and I remember these things, and to me, it was just almost like crazy beyond comprehension at that time. I'm like, what the what the F is that? I mean, like, that's the craziest thing. You can't tow with it. You can't go off-road with it, but it just absolutely hauls ass and it looks kind of cool. And I mean, what was your impression, Steve? I thought they were just outrageously cool.
I couldn't believe it.
Well, that's the only thing, couldn't believe it. That's kind of what it was. It's like, what niche is this serving? What it wasn't. That's what's so
Yeah,
cool about it.
I thought it was, I thought it was outrageous because the Chevy S10 or the GMC Sonoma, same thing, small pickup, and they were known for being cheap, and they had no performance. They had
Yeah.
like an there was the old Iron Duke GM four-cylinder, or you can get a V6. Neither one of which had any performance. So the idea that this happened, it reminded me a little bit, Stefan, of when the Hellcat came out. And you didn't see it coming, and you're like, oh shit, this is like
Yeah.
crazy performance.
Right. Well, this was like a Raptor moment back then. And then they also came out with the Typhoon. This was 92, 93. This was based on the S10 Blazer, the two-door, which was a huge selling vehicle. And it had the same engine, but it weighed like 400 pounds more, so it wasn't as fast. But what we really have here is this is the origin of the hot rod SUV. These two trucks did it. Later
Yeah.
on, you had the Ford Lightning. Now we've got the Raptor. Then there was the Velociraptor. You've got the fancy Range Rovers. But then all this goes back to leading to me here, the most outrageous of all these right here, the Durango Hellcat.
Yeah.
710 horsepower, 0 to 60 in 3.5 seconds. And I don't know if you've ever seen one of these or heard them. Man, they sound so nasty. I absolutely love these things.
Yeah.
Because it's just outrageous. It's totally outrageous. And it makes zero sense. But that's why I love it.
Yeah.
So I'm like, absolutely. Please, please, please. But don't, now if you're going to, if it's going to be in a compact, I get a V6. Okay. If it's going to be in like a Maverick or Ranger, yeah, okay, I get it. But Ford got some crap when they didn't have the V8 option in the Raptor. Now you got to get the Raptor R to get the big V8. So if they're going to do this in a small midsize, yep, turbocharged V6 is fine. But if it's going to be in one of their larger trucks, but now they're moving towards electric. But we gotta all these vehicles that you see today, they all go back to the Cyclone and the Typhoon. That was really GM. I didn't realize that at the time until I did a little, started thinking about this and looking it up. I didn't realize they really were the first ones to do it. And so I never say a lot of kudos to GM, but absolutely to GM on this one because I think I guess you still got to have a little bit of 13, 14-year-old male in you. You got to have a little boy in you to think that this is so stupid and it's so outrageous, but that's what makes it so cool. I mean, I love them.
Well, a good analog to that today, something that's just so stupid that it's beautiful. I mean, it's stupid and beautiful, is the Cadillac Escalade V.
Yes.
Makes no
No
sense
sense.
at
Yes.
all. It's colossally stupid, and they sold out. And you can get one, but you're gonna have to pay over for it. they just absolutely sold that out. As many as they could put those engines in, it sold out. So I think they, which GM would you do? It would have to be the large Yukon or Yukon XL. Have to be the large one,
Yeah.
and you'd have to again put something similar, maybe the same engine that's in the Escalade V, but it's so colossally stupid. And guess what? The Raptor makes no sense. We love it. There was, by the way, speaking of Ford, right around the same time that the Typhoon and the Cyclone came out, actually Cyclone was first, as you just said. Uh, Ford kind of responded with a road hopped up Ford F-150. So it was just the two-door short bed. And remember what they called it? They called it the Lightning. And
Yes.
now the Lightning is their electric one.
Yeah.
Back then it was, a big
Yeah,
V8.
here we go. Yeah, here it is.
And right around the same time, Stefan, GM also had the Chevy. It wasn't the Silverado, but it was a 454. So it was the Chevy the Chevy pickup with a 454. It was a 454 SS. And yeah, there's the Lightning.
The
So
SVT like with side exhaust. I mean, coming out in front of the tires. I mean, it's so outrageous, but I love it.
yeah, there was an earlier one.
Absolutely.
This is the second version. There was an
Yeah.
earlier one in the 90s, early 90s.
Let's see if I can, yeah, if I can
Maybe
find one.
type in like 1992.
Oh, here
There
we
it is.
go.
That's it
Yep,
right there.
there it is.
So that's the one. And that's,
Yep.
yeah, there you go. Short bed, very kind of, and it was just for the road. And it's interesting that when they came out with the new F-150 that was for performance, the Raptor, it's off-road. This one, I think they said there's more of a market if we make it like, off-road and
Yeah.
yeah. So
Yeah. Yeah, that Ford had 240 horsepower. Whoa. But
that
that
was a
was,
lot back then.
oh, I know, I know, I know. Yeah, 1993. That was a lot of horsepower back then.
So again, I hope it comes true. Don't you think, Stefan? Don't you wish they would do something like that just because
I
it's
do,
stupid?
absolutely. But yeah, I think, the GM has, let's see how, they have, I really believe in their performance models. They really hold the V8 for the Corvette. They put in some Camaros, but why have they not dropped? That is just, I mean, GM has taken the internal combustion engine to unbelievable limits with the new vet, their horsepower.
Yeah.
I would be dropping that motor in anything I could shoehorn it into. Anything.
That's what Dodge did with the Hellcat. They put
Yes,
it everywhere.
exactly right. They put it everywhere. Yeah, why not? And they sold those things. So and I guess that's what they've done with the Escalade. But I would find I'd put that motor everywhere.
Amen.
And
Amen. Hey, I want to mention one thing because we have a little bit of free time. Porsche is it we talked about this. They are struggling, which is something we never thought would happen, but they
yeah.
really are struggling. They just discontinued the Boxster and the Cayman, and they couldn't
Well, why
continue.
are they struggling? Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
we mentioned it. They
It's
went too hard into electric, and as
electric.
Car Magazine said, they put their money on the black ball in the roulette wheel, and the wheel and the ball went to red.
Right.
So
They're under, but listeners, you got to realize they're under a lot of all the European
right.
manufacturers are facing this crisis right, and they're not the only ones. Some others just have a larger product line is not it did not affect them as large, but the product line for Porsche is very small, the models. Now, yeah, they're what 40 variants of a 911, but I mean basically you got, so when they changed two of their vehicles with the Cockster and the
Stefan.
718 to and the Cayman to electric. Now think about it. There's no gasoline sports car besides entry point at 911 and a base 911's at what? 120 now? 111 for a base 911?
Well, I'll tell you the base price is $132,000 for a
Jeez.
911. It's the cheapest one you can buy. And when we talked about this, we said, and we had this whole conversation with
Yeah,
Adams,
yes.
but we said, come on, guys, if you're going to get rid of your Boxster and your Cayman, and of course they had to because they no longer met regs in Europe, then what you can do is just make essentially a 912
Yes.
from the 60s and 70s, and that is you take your 911 and decontent it and sell it for cheaper. So what if you could sell, instead of $132,000 for the very cheapest Carrera you can buy, which is the price, how about, 95,000 and you put just maybe a non-turbo engine in, just a 3-liter non-turbo, and just cut a lot of the stuff out. And, that would expand your volume hugely. I don't think it would hurt the image of the 911 too much. But here's the news thing which I wanted to talk about. Stefan, the base price for a Carrera is $132,000. What do you think the base price, no options, for a 911 Turbo S is? You and I have both driven it. We
Yeah.
love the Turbo S. It's a wonderful car. It's a supercar. It's a really a different car from the base 911. It drives different. Its capability is way, 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 way more. But give me a price. The
220.
cheapest 911 Turbo S you can buy.
220.
Yeah, you would think 272 fucking $1,000. Right.
Oh, that's
Your the
that's
look on your face says it all, Stefan.
God. That's just ridiculous. That's insane. I mean, yeah, how do you yeah, I mean, you talk about you've got to move material and there's only so much profit you can squeeze out of a customer. And yeah, that makes would you rather sell one of those or would you rather sell 15 decontented 911s? But I'm sure the profit margin is there. And I think the idea of, exclusivity and limiting market and limiting vehicles produced, there's a fine line, but that's just insanity.
I
Insanity.
love I love the look on your face. I really shocked you.
I was going 220. I was like saying, oh, it's going to be high. I'm saying 220. And oh my God. 27. Jesus.
What that means, Stefan, is we should do this. We'll just configure one. But if you go to the configurator, you choose just a few options with tax and destination, there's going to be nobody who actually, the actually out the door price is going to be less than $300,000.
I bet a 2, 3-year-old Turbo S is going to keep its value because,
Yeah.
um, jeez.
Yeah. It's
Yeah,
insane.
Porsche needs a nine. I always said, not, that we talked about that one show, but I like the idea of a new 914 or even a 944. They can go to their parts bin, throw that Macan Turbo S engine in the front of something small and make a new engine Porsche, a baby Panamera or something with low content and but just fun drivability. I mean, there's market share for that.
Well, they have, they took the Golf and they made an Audi out of it. The A3 is a Golf,
Yes.
and yet they have an RS3, which is a very high performance Golf. Why not make a high performance sports car, or at least sporty car, that's a
Yep.
Porsche, maybe a baby? You mentioned the Panamera. I think that's a great start. It's the same idea. That's an Audi A8, and you just take actually it's a Porsche Cayenne, but whatever. You take the Audi thing, but you make it Porsche thing. And I bet you if I did it on AI, it would be pretty cool.
Yeah. Yeah, we
All
did
right.
some cool AIs. All right. Jeez.
That's it. Close us out, unless you have something else.
No, I think I'm still in shock at the price of that Turbo S. I'm like, oh my God. Jeez.
Now you're like, I got to sell both my kidneys.
Yeah, man. Holy mackerel. All right, anyway. Well, thanks everybody for tuning in and whether on YouTube, Apple, and just remember to like and subscribe, hit that bell. That way you'll get notifications when a new episode comes out. And we'll see you next time.